Good afternoon, everyone. This is Ed Kranich with the Connecticut Green Bank. Thanks for joining us. I can see a couple of people are still getting signed on here, so we're going to wait just a few more minutes until we get everyone on the line, and then we'll get started within a couple of minutes. Thank you. All right, and it looks like we've got everyone joined here, so we will get started. So my name is Ed Kranich with the Connecticut Green Bank, and I'm joined here by Neil McCarthy, Dale Hedman, and a couple other folks from the team who can help answer questions along the way. But this afternoon, we're just going to go through some of the frequently asked questions through the RGM upgrade provider RFP. So with that, I will kick it off to Neil. Although actually, before we get started, I just want to tell people if you have any additional questions or you need anything clarified, please use the chat feature or the questions feature, and we'll get to them at the end of the presentation. Thanks. Neil?
Thank you, Ed. This is Neil McCarthy with the Connecticut Green Bank. Welcome to the Q&A session for the RGM upgrade provider RFP. We got a lot of great questions from people, and we're going to go through them as best as we can. And as Ed said, if you have questions during the presentation, please put them in the chat, and we will address them at the end. And if we have time at the end as well, we could take verbal questions depending upon how much time we have left at the end. So with that, we'll get started. Oops. So first off, introduction. So the people who contributed to creating this RFP, in addition to myself, we had Dale Hedman, Bill Colonis, Stephanie Etruria, Celia Price, and Sergio Carrillo, all from the incentives team. And from the legal team, Brian Farning contributed, and also from the finance team, Bert Hunter contributed, and also from the operations team, Eric Strago also contributed. So we're just going to run through a couple slides. The bulk of the talk will be on the questions and answers that you submitted. I think we had almost 30 of them, and we'll do our best to get to all of them. So next slide is the purpose of the RFP. Let's see. So the reason we are soliciting proposals is because cell carriers will be sunsetting 3G services, and this is sort of like a nationwide thing. Many of you might be familiar with the fact that most networks are moving to 4G or even higher. So this is creating some issues with devices that communicate over 3G. And for that reason, we need to upgrade a large quantity of 3G meters to at least 4G service. And the ones we are most concerned with here at the Green Bank are the meters that were part of the Solar Lease 2 program, also known as SL2, and as well as homeowner purchased residential homeowner purchase systems. And a couple of the key responsibilities of the provider will be arranging appointments with customers and mobilizing and dispatching technical staff to upgrade meters, throughout the state. And providers will also need to coordinate with the Green Bank to make sure that we can see the data in Locus Energy, which is our preferred data platform. Okay, so now we'll get to the list of questions, which is right here. So we got questions from several interested parties, and we put them all together. And this is the document. I'll try to make this bigger so everyone can see. I know sometimes it's tough to see on the screens here. So the first question was, what is the replacement equipment? That is it plug and play or direct replacement? And the answer is the main idea of the proposals are to upgrade 3G meters to 4G capacity or greater. And we're going to leave it up to applicants and providers to propose which types of models will be installed, but they do need to be on the RCIP eligible preferred data provider list. In the event that someone wants to propose a non-RCIP eligible meter, that meter would need to meet the qualifications of the ANSI 12.2 requirements, plus additional requirements that we have detailed before in previous RFPs, and you can find that previous RFP in this link here. I will send around the answers. Now I will send around this document at the end, so you'll be able to find these links. And if a new meter is proposed, we would have to consider reopening that RFP for those purposes. So that's the first question. The next question, question 2, one party was wondering, could the Green Bank front the cost and possibly store some meters and distribute them in any sort of special circumstances? The way the RFP is written, we're requiring providers to cover the upfront cost of meters. So all respondents will need to apply based on that criteria. But if you want to propose, maybe if you want to indicate that you're unable to provide the upfront cost of such equipment, you can indicate that in your response. And when we review the responses, we will take into account the feasibility of different applicants' capacity to procure meters up front, because we know that some folks here on the webinar may be larger organizations and could handle it, whereas some companies are smaller and might not be able to do that. But the requirement of the RFP is that we expect you to cover that front cost. Another question 3. So let's say a meter gets shipped out to a site and a technician installs it, and for some reason it's not working. How would a provider be reimbursed for that meter? The answer is we would expect providers to coordinate any RMAs or return of merchandise authorizations with the metering companies or metering providers. And if you care to, if you think that's going to be a significant cost, you can factor that into your proposals. If you think that's going to cause you additional markups or make your costs a little bit higher. So when you give your cost proposal, you can mention that or just factor it in with your rates. Question 4 is more of a technical electrical question. So what happens if a technician goes to a site and finds corrosion, for instance, or some other sort of electrical issue? Who would decide to shut a system off and lock off if needed? We really hope this wouldn't happen, but you never know. Someone could find something and things happen, and unfortunately it's a possibility, so we do have to take it into consideration, but we would hope it doesn't. For that purpose, we would ask each provider to keep a licensed electrician available, either as a staff employee, or maybe as a third party contractor, someone you could call in to address something like this. And that electrician could determine if the system should be shut off. And then if there's any, so the purpose of this RFP is to get the meters changed. So if there's any work that needs to be done outside the meter change, if it is an electrical or safety issue, customers would need to contact their solar installers or a licensed professional, not related to our meter change, to address any electrical or safety issues. And if a contractor is out of business, you could refer a customer to gosolarct.com, or in some cases you could refer a customer to the Green Bank, and we would help that person find another qualified installer. So let's see, all right, oops. So question 5. Some people who are more familiar with the technical side of these types of meter changes have indicated that it's possible that that a technician would temporarily need to shut down certain types of systems, and they're wondering if this would be acceptable for a technician or only a licensed electrician. And to that, we would kind of refer back to the previous question, where the staff electrician needs to be available to consult with field employees and determine if a system would need to be temporarily shut off. And that decision would ultimately be up to the staff or contracted electrician, but a technician would need to determine if that would be necessary before calling that into the electrician. So the next question is an important one. Question 6: what would be the unit price of a meter? So our thinking on this is that applicants would need to coordinate with metering companies or metering providers to determine equipment costs and any possible bulk rates. And then when you coordinate that with them, you can reference those costs as part of your proposal. So when you coordinate with the metering providers, you would get the cost from them and just put that in your proposal. So we're leaving it up to you to get the cost from the metering providers, such as Locus or Enphase or SolarEdge or SolarLog. So the next question, 7: how will the Green Bank structure payments in the PSA? Again, we're accepting proposals here, so we would leave it up to applicants to propose how they want to be paid, including your preferred pricing scheme, and we would evaluate that proposal in our review, and when we choose the provider or providers we want to work with. So question 8 is about customer service complaints or concerns at any point really along the process of a meter upgrade. So all providers, as part of this RFP, would be required to answer any question related to the meter upgrades, but only the meter upgrades and any coordination as far as arranging appointments. Anything outside of that, we would not want someone from one of our providers answering questions not related to meter upgrades, and we would expect you to refer customers to their solar installer or gosolarct.com or the Green Bank. And when you make your cost proposal, you can always factor in time or energy or effort spent to coordinate with customers. That would be part of the proposal. So this question 9 came up often from a lot of different people regarding the 3-month period after each 3G sunset. The main thing that we're looking for with this is that we have the new meters communicating with Locus Energy, which is our preferred data platform. And we may still look for a period of time after each 3G sunset to make sure we are getting that data. And we're going to get into this more later with a later question, number 26. At a minimum, we're expecting that we will get photos from each site and a weekly log of all meter upgrades from everyone who is doing work on this. And we'll discuss this question more later. Question 10, does new metering have capability of being hardwired? If so, is this the preferred method of installation? So our preferred method of installation is that a meter be communicating over at least a 4G network. And in some cases, we understand if it's a remote area, cell service might not be available. We will accept solutions for that from you on a case-by-case basis. Question 11. This is sort of a reiterating question 10. Question 11 didn't really ask about COVID, but I really wanted to make sure this was in here. So I added the latest COVID protocol. So if you're concerned about entering homes, just follow the latest COVID guidelines with the state of Connecticut. And of course, if you feel that you need to be extra cautious, then we could work with that as well. But at least we would expect you to work with what the COVID protocols are in Connecticut. Question 12, for equipment that is hardwired, were these included in the total count? Do these have to be changed? For example, the L-Gate 120 can be installed with, for example, the L-Gate 120 can be installed not to utilize a cell network and be hardwired. Does this have to be upgraded regardless? So yes, the answer is yes. We are requiring that meters be communicating over 4G or greater, and this is described in section 1.1 of the RFP. So any 3G meter will have to be replaced or upgraded, and a cell service, as I said in the earlier question, if cell service isn't available, we would deal with that on a case-by-case basis. I'm not sure what the percentage is there, but if someone wants to ask, I could try to look that up for you and see if I can get an estimate of what percentage of meters those might be. Okay. Question 13. What is the expected scope under the 5-year maintenance agreement on all RGM upgrades? So at a bare minimum, we would expect that a provider would be able to coordinate and complete an RMA or a return of merchandise authorization and reinstallation when needed. And beyond that, we will accept any sort of maintenance agreement you propose and review it accordingly in comparison to other proposals from other companies. But the maintenance agreement you would have to propose. Question 14, is there a set price for reimbursement for the procurement of meters? So after the work is done in the field, we would expect providers to invoice the Green Bank for all equipment and labor, including the documentation of the cost of each meter. Different makes and models of meters will have different costs. And then you can see question number 6 for more information, which we already covered. Question 15 is about disposal. So the question is, should unit disposal be factored in the per unit replacement pricing, or will disposal be reimbursed by the Green Bank? Our answer to this is we have not heard of any significant disposal costs with these meters, but if you find that there might be some disposal costs, you can factor that into your you can factor that into your proposal. But providers will be responsible for the disposal of meters and associated equipment. So question 16, will the Green Bank supply specification sheets for revenue grade meters to be installed prior to the proposal deadline? If yes, what date? So the answer to this, so each provider would work with Green Bank approved metering companies or providers to determine the specifications of the new meters for the purposes of this RFP. You can refer to section 1.1 of the upgrade RFP to see which brands are RCIP eligible. And the Green Bank, and if you do want to propose a different kind of meter, we might consider non-RCIP eligible meters, as we mentioned in question 1. And there's a little bit of a process for getting those meters in our program. Question 17. Please confirm the revenue grade meter warranty period contemplated by the Green Bank. So what we're saying is the equipment warranties would be offered by each metering company, but a typical equipment warranty we usually see is 5 years. Applicants could propose alternatives in their RFP responses for Green Bank's consideration and include a scope of proposed maintenance services. So, we would kind of throw that out to you guys, and you could propose what sort of maintenance you want to propose. Question 18. Please confirm 5-year workmanship guarantee does or does not include the cost of new equipment associated with a claim. So the answer here is, so providers would need to coordinate with providers would need to coordinate with metering providers to determine if a site issue is related to workmanship or equipment. So if you had ordered a meter directly from one of our preferred metering companies, you would have to arrange equipment reimbursement with them. So if you find that it's an equipment issue with a new meter, you would coordinate with them to get reimbursed, not through the Green Bank. And I think we covered that a little bit earlier too. And then the next question is the same thing, only it's asking about the maintenance agreement, not the workmanship agreement. So it's sort of the same question. So for question 19, I would just refer you to questions 17 and 18 because we explained it there. Question 20. So here's this question again about the revisit rights and the 5-year workmanship warranty. So the revisit right refers to the period of time after a 3G service is sunset, but the workmanship warranty refers to the period of time after the date of the physical change of the meter. As long as if the meter is installed before a sunset, then these dates could differ. If a meter is changed after a 3G sunset, then the latter date would apply. And you can specify in your proposals if you can meet these targets, or provide alternatives that best match your capabilities as an applicant. Again, question 21 also gets to the revisit issue. Who covers the cost of the provider? And if inverter or other system issues are creating the error, is the provider expected to repair them? If so, will Green Bank be responsible for another party? So I think I mentioned this earlier too. So providers are only responsible for the work related to the meter upgrades. And as we draft professional service agreements or PSAs, we'll specify that in the details. And we would expect that that each provider will communicate with customers upfront as much as possible to make sure they understand what's going on. to avoid unnecessary revisits as much as possible. And if a customer is having an issue with their installation, a technician could refer them to their original installer. If the original installer is no longer in business, then customers could go to Go Solar CT or the Green Bank. Is that? Okay. So, question 22. Please define the Green Bank's definition of transmitting confirmation. How does a Green Bank plan to give providers confirmation that transmitted data is being received, that is, connectivity confirmation? Please define timely manner as to verification of connectivity. Is an API to a monitoring platform available? Is there another plan? So we are requiring that all meters will need to report directly to Locus Energy, which is known as Also Energy. So yeah, as I mentioned earlier, we would expect to see confirmations in a weekly report along with photos, and then we will update our records in Locus, and then once we verify that data is flowing into Locus over an agreed upon interval, and for this we're strongly considering making this a 1 month interval, because that's the amount of time we can take reports from Locus to verify that there's data in Locus. So the 1 month period is something we're strongly considering using. And once we verify that there's data in Locus, that will in essence verify the connectivity. And I think this question was asking how the Green Bank would notify providers of confirmation. I mean, if you want it, we could send it, and we would send it in a bulk report to you. It would just be a spreadsheet of the meters you had changed, and you can see the data that's being reported in Locus. Locus Elgates and their newer version of Locus meters do not require an API to transmit data to its platform. Other types of meters, such as Enphase or SolarEdge or SolarLog, do use an API using identifiers independent of the physical meters. So it's not necessarily the specific meter. Sometimes the API pulls from it doesn't pull always from the physical meter. So some types of meter swaps or meter upgrades we would not need to update records in Locus, but we would need to verify that we are still getting data there. And also, the historical data is important too. So we'll need to make sure we have older historical data in each record. So question 23. Please provide the revenue grade meter approved vendor list. That's in the RFP section 1.1. Someone asked about prevailing wages. Prevailing wages do not apply. There is no statutory or other legal requirement for prevailing wage for this scope of work. Yeah, so that doesn't apply. Another question. Someone asked, what is meant with SL2 systems? So SL2 is just another way of saying Solar Lease 2. And Solar Lease 2 is a program that was administered by the CT Green Bank. And all of these sites have 3G Locus meters, which would need to be replaced. And we do prefer Locus meters at the SL2 sites, but we will consider alternatives. Okay, so question 26, again, the revisit question. This is a hot one. The question quotes from our RFP: work with the CT Green Bank to allow for verification that all data is correctly reporting for 6 months after each respective 3G sunset. What is the reason for this time period of 6 months? And does it mean the replacements are to be initiated in the 6 months after each respective 3G sunset date? So the original intention of this requirement was to was to say that we wanted to verify that we were getting data after the 3G network was sunset. But we are aware that we're asking for additional requirements to verify that the meter was changed at the time of the meter was changed. And then, so there's more detail in question 20. I'll just go up here in case anyone missed it. So yeah, so there's that. So that it's in question 20 and question 21. And if anyone has more questions about that, just put them in the chat. I know a lot of folks were curious about that. So just put it in the chat or talk with us when the presentation's done. So question 27. We have learned that Core T-Mobile moved their 3G sunset date from October 2021 to April 2022. Will this new date be applied with this RFP? So what we'll do is, so if we can verify that any of these 3G sunset dates have been changed, we may choose to amend the RFP to reflect those dates. But when drafting a service agreement, such as a PSA, the Green Bank will confirm the accuracy of each 3G sunset date before we sign on anyone to actually do the work. And the last question, question 28. Is there already a timeline on when to start with the replacements after July 2021? What we're saying is we're planning on signing on providers by mid to late July and expect that field work will begin in August. However, as we stated in the RFP, we might need to modify this timeline as this is a very complex and high volume kind of job, and we know there's a lot of details that would need to be worked out. In the RFP, it does ask applicants to indicate their lead times, such as bringing on staff, scheduling, and communicating with customers prior to beginning field work. And so when you submit your proposal, please specify how much time you will need between the signing of an agreement and the commencement of your field work here in Connecticut. So if you could just put that in your proposal, that would be great. So that is all the questions. So back to here. So the next part of the agenda is for us to answer any live questions from you that came in through the chat. I haven't been monitoring it because I've been looking at my sheet here. I don't know, Ed, if you saw any come in.
So nothing has come in so far, but anyone on the line, if you have any, okay, I can see a hand is raised. I'm not sure we're actually able to grant people speaking rights on here because it's a webinar. So if you do have a question, please just put it in the chat or the questions box. Oh, okay. So Neil, first question. Explain the completion guarantee requirement, which is section 4.1 under general.
Okay, hold on a second. Now, hold on a second. Let me bear with me a second.
Mm-hmm.
Just pulling this up. Let's see what this was. So I just want to make sure I have the right language here. Let's see. So the completion requirement will be to verify that we have data in locus. I know we had written in the revisit right, but we're reconsidering that and considering possibly just taking a month's worth of data in locus. So if that's the case, we would just pull data from Locus, and if it's there if we have a month's worth of data, then we might be able to move on. Depending upon how the proposals go, we'll have to review each one. And we would, as far as, we would need verification from the site as well. So we would need photos of the meter that was installed. And with the photo, we would need what's called the RPV number, which is the application number that goes with the meter, that goes with the site, I should say, and the address and the homeowner's name, along with a photo of the meter. And then we would, if it's a Locus meter, for instance, we would need the MAC ID written down on the sheet as well. So if your company has changed out a large number of meters in 1 week, we would expect to see a weekly submission on that with all that information and photos, and then Greenbank would have to go in. Maybe someone can correct me if I'm wrong in this, but I'm pretty sure Greenbank would have to go in and update the records in Locus, and then we would need to verify that the data is reporting.
Okay, thanks, Neil. And Henry, if you have any follow-up on that, please either put it in the questions box or you can reach out to us directly. So the next question here is, can we swap meters, for example, install a Locus in place of a solar log?
The short answer is yes, you could if you wanted to. The way that's going to work is you would propose that up front when you submit your proposal, which types of meters you're going to work with. But yes, you could. You would have to just put that in your proposal, though.
And so on an individual project basis, would that be permitted, or that would be up to the installer to make that decision project by project if needed, or would they need some type of pre-approval to switch this project to a different type of meter?
I might have to get back to you on that, actually.
Okay.
I hadn't thought that all the way through. I have my contact information at the end of this presentation, so if you want to, you can send me an email and I will get that answer for you.
Okay. So the next one here, the RFP requests a per unit cost estimate. That may be difficult given the different costs of meters, whether the meter is hardwired or if it's just a quick swap out in a meter socket. So do you have any recommendations on that for how to propose a cost when they can range quite a bit?
Well, the way we're setting this up is you would have to coordinate with each metering provider to get those costs up front. If the requirement is that we need these meters communicating over 4G or greater, but if you're anticipating any sort of other additional costs on top of what that typical meter would be, a 4G meter or greater, you could put that in your proposal as well, and we could take it into consideration.
Okay. So I think that answers the other question that Robert had, which was, do you want a cost estimate for the different meters listed? So yes, it sounds like, to answer your question, Robert, being as detailed as possible and even putting in a range if needed would be a good idea.
Mm-hmm. Let me just see if I know that list is in here. Here it is. So here's a list of the meters we put in the RFP. So yes, you would need to provide a cost for each type of meter you're swapping.
Okay, great. So next question here, could you explain the available funding clause, clause 16 in the service agreement?
Oh, okay. Clause 16. This is the available funding clause. Wow. That might be more of a legal question. I don't know if Brian Farnan is available.
I'm here. Let me see if I can see the question here. So
The question is about this available funding. Oops. Can you see that, Brian?
yeah, I mean, I see the PSA. Yeah, where's the actual question? Is someone just asking what it means?
Someone was just asking for clarification on what this clause means, this available funding clause.
I mean, this would be in the kind of the I mean, this is just meant in a case of a huge sweep that those funds would not be available, that we wouldn't, I mean, it's very unlikely to ever apply. I mean, this would only kind of occur in like a bankruptcy scenario. So I wouldn't be too concerned about it.
Okay. Any follow-up on that? Is that good? I don't know who asked the question.
I think that's good. There are a couple more questions. Actually, they're kind of rolling in now. So
Okay.
let's see. You explain the expectations of cross promotion for battery storage and heat pump technology.
Right. So I think this was in the RFP briefly, and it didn't come up in the Q&A. Our expectation was that there's a possibility that we might ask technicians just to leave like a door hanger or maybe a flyer from the CT Green Bank, or just to promote, just to notify customers that there is a battery storage program going on, or maybe we even would want to notify them of something else. But I think the main one would be battery storage. So we are considering the idea of maybe like a door hanger or like a flyer in someone's mailbox. We wouldn't expect or want technicians as part of this work to engage a customer on that topic. But there is a possibility that we could ask for just like a promotional material just left in the mailbox.
Okay. So you mentioned that you are considering lowering the 6-month verification period to 1 month. When will you be able to update us on that decision?
Well, I'm going to need to discuss that internally, but I could say tentatively within, let me just see, hold on a second. Let me just check the dates again. So everyone knows what the schedule is. It would be good to go over this anyway. The schedule. Here. So this is the schedule. Final responses are due June 21st. Today is so that's 10 calendar days. So yeah, I know this is a critical issue. So I will discuss this with the team internally, and we will decide how we're going to proceed. I'll try to get an email out next Tuesday or Wednesday about this with a final decision.
Okay. And I've got a long question here, so just a minute.
Neil, and how are you going to notify all applicants about those decisions?
Well, I have the list of everyone who's on this webinar because I sent them all individually an email. So if anyone has gotten an email from me to sign up for this webinar, you can get an email from me about this next week. But I do need to run this by people internally. Yeah, we could post it too. Yeah, we can maybe do an addendum or post it that way, and it'll go out to all the same people who got the notice for this webinar.
Right. Thanks.
You're welcome.
Okay, so next question here. If the Green Bank plans to submit monthly meter production reports for the provider to determine a return visit being needed or not, will these reports make the distinction between offline meters showing 0 data and 0 production data, which would not be a meter issue, but a production issue. So I guess the question is for measuring the installer's performance. Some systems may just not generate power because of the system, and some systems may not report because there's a meter issue.
Right. So I think what we could do is we could look at the prior information before the meter was changed, and if there's like a sudden drop from 12 kilowatt hours a day, and then all of a sudden it's 0, then we would have a pretty good idea that it was the meter change that caused the problem. But if the meter hadn't reported for a long period of time before that, then we would know it was a problem with the solar.
Okay, and I think in locust reporting at least, there is a distinction between the NA and 0, so we can tell in most cases whether it's the system or the meter.
Oh, okay, thanks, Ed.
Okay, actually, this is a great question here. Due to, in some cases, like locust, large quantity of meters, what if there is not enough supply to get these swapped out in time? Because there's a shortage in some cases of these meters.
Yeah, that's another big question. So that's the sort of thing we would have to consider internally, and we could put it in a professional service agreement, maybe, if my supervisors and colleagues would agree to that. Maybe that's the sort of thing we could put in a PSA and say, meeting due dates pending, availability of meters, or pending meter availability.
Okay. So we wouldn't necessarily hold it against anyone if they just flat out can't get a meter.
That's my opinion. I mean, I'd have to run it by supervisors and colleagues, but that's my idea.
Yes,
Okay.
Neil, that's a very good point, and that's another reason we could consider replacing a make and model with a different make, right?
Yes, that's a good point too. Yeah.
So we're open to the proposal, to different options in the proposals. That's what we want to see.
Another good question here is in the RFP asking for a per unit cost. Can this be broken down by the location as well? Because some locations may be harder to get to or just take longer to get to.
Right. So the unit cost of the meter would just be equipment cost, and any other cost you are expecting outside that you would have to factor in. And on the RFP, on the link to the RFP, there's an appendix which has the quantity of meters broken out by zip code, and also broken out by the counties in Connecticut. So you'll be able to see where the quantities are for each one, and assuming you have some idea of like which portions of the state you want to cover, you could break out that cost accordingly.
Okay. Three more here. Section 4.4, technical and customer support. How long do you expect the provider to support the customer in terms of months or years?
Mm-hmm. So the technical and customer support would just be for the duration of the PSA that's written, as far as the coordinating with the green bank is concerned. So if you no longer have a PSA with us, then we wouldn't expect you to coordinate with us. And most PSAs are written for the fiscal year, which is June 1st to July July 1st to June 30th the following year.
Okay. Two more here. So after the RGM installation verification, who is generating, I think the question is a work order for RGM equipment issues as part of the workmanship warranty? So does the green bank find an issue and request the provider to make a site visit, or does that come from Also Energy?
Well, yes, I would say that ensuring that meters are producing is a requirement of the RFP. So the green bank would prefer to enforce that, and if there's any workmanship issue, we would expect that someone would go back and fix any workmanship issues.
Okay.
And that request would come
Makes
from
sense.
the green bank, I think.
Mm-hmm. Sorry, I'm just reviewing the last question here. Robert, could you clarify on your question whether is that a continuation of your question on section 4.4, or was this a new question? I'll just give it a minute here.
Thanks, Ed.
Okay. So can a provider bill for the work order in the event the issue is not a meter issue and it turns out to be a production issue?
Oh.
So I guess in that case, maybe if they go to a site and find that it is not an issue, that they would be required to fix.
Right. I would say so. If you could send in a photo of the meter with a MAC ID, and we have a photo of the meter working, but we're getting, as Ed said, zeros instead of NAs in locus. So if there's an NA, it means that the meter isn't communicating. But if there's a zero, it means there's no production. Then I wouldn't expect that we would require someone to go back out there on their own dime to fix that.
Yeah, so in most cases, we probably wouldn't have identified the wrong project for a provider to go out and visit.
Is that a question to me, Ed?
No, I think I'm just trying to clarify.
Okay. Thanks.
So yeah. But given that there's 10,000 of these, that things can happen, I'm sure.
Really, we think one of the stickier parts of this is going to be the communication with homeowners. Yeah. In case I was wondering.
Okay, there are a couple more, and just to be aware of time here, are we ending at 2?
I have it booked until 2:30, but you know, okay. If people wrap up, we can end earlier.
Okay. I got a couple more coming in here. You referenced the RFP response as forms A, B, and C. However, is there an additional requirement for us to also complete a separate submission to answer the questions in section 4, or do you expect these points to be covered in form C?
So can I just clarify, is this a question about the application format? I'm not sure.
I believe so.
Oh, okay. Can you repeat that?
Yeah.
Thanks.
So in the RFP, so the RFP response forms are form A, B, and C, like in the application.
Uh-huh.
So is there a requirement, say in Form C, if you can jump down to that?
I'm not.
That's the RFP, the
Oh,
application
the
form.
application. Oh, okay, that's what I thought. Okay.
Yep.
I haven't looked at this in a little bit.
So in Form C, it asks some questions.
Okay. Okay, so Form C, product specific data per the RFP document created by applicant. I think that's what we're looking at. So this would be where an applicant would include everything related to what they intend to install, the types of meters, the costs, the staffing capability, the expectations of how many meters you think you could install and by what date. So yeah, so anything that's asked for in the RFP.
Okay, so for the actual response part of it, if it can fit in the spaces on application Form C, but it sounds like in many cases it probably wouldn't because it would be too much information. So you could certainly just title your document Form C and then fill out
Yes.
all the information that's needed, which is outlined in the RFP itself.
Yeah, that would be great. And just so everyone knows, it would be really helpful, like just to try to include as much as possible that's asked for in the RFP, because that will help cut down on review time and will help us expedite our review process and our decisions. So we would greatly appreciate as complete as possible on the first try.
Yeah.
I know it's
Always
a lot of
helpful.
information, and I know it's a lot of information, but you know, we'll do the best to work with you.
Okay. And so the last question that I have here is, do you have any more detail on which meters are in which town? So we have we have the number of meters broken out by zip code, but not the type of meter.
Yeah, you're right. We don't have that broken out by type of meter. Not in this appendix, but I think we do have it like in the background supporting data somewhere. So we might be able to dig that up. If someone wants that, just email me.
Okay, I'll flag that one, and that might be a good one to if it's available, just to make it like an appendix to the RFP.
Yeah, because there was some supporting like information and data that went into finding all of these, and there might be some way to cross-reference that. Hopefully, we'll look into it.
Okay.
Yeah, that information is available, so we can dig that up and provide it.
Okay, thanks, Dale.
Okay, great. I think that covers everything. I'll just give it another couple of seconds in case there's any other questions coming in, but thank you all for having such great detailed questions in here. So I'm glad we could get to everything.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear all these questions, because it's a very heavy lift, and we're really looking forward to getting some folks here to sign on to do this, and it's something we need to get done.
All right, so seeing no more questions, thanks everyone for joining. And Neil, if you don't have any more closing words, we will conclude the webinar.
Okay, yeah, just to say, I'm gonna post these. I'll post these slides and the Q&A on either on the website with the RFPs, or I might email you separately, and we will be in touch about that one issue about verifying the meter installs.
Okay, and I think we had one more item on the questions to follow up to about swapping meters.
Okay.
Oh, actually, no, I'm sorry. We did answer that. Just it was about outlining the exact meter that you wanted to swap out for if you wanted to switch them. So that one's
Yeah.
answered. So, okay. All
Yeah.
right. So we will follow up then.
Great. Thanks
Thanks,
everyone
everyone.
for coming. Appreciate it.
All right. Have a good weekend.
All right, you too.
Thank you.
Thanks everybody.